2 project files, but a bit stripped down because I want to go a little bit more in depth. First, I'm going to do my release Trabanca. And for the people that don't know it yet, I will play it first, so we know what we're talking about. Alright, so I get a lot of questions about my kick drums specifically. So first I want to explain you how I do it and how I make my kick drums. So I often use a really short kick sample or multiple, and then layer a synth below that for either the real sub or the mid sub. So here is the project, and over here are the kick layers that are active. So this one consists of 4 layers. As you can see, there's a few disabled samples as well, because like making a good kick is always a process. So you try things, it doesn't work, but I still leave it in there and search for something better. The first one is this sample, and actually nothing really special is on there, only a little EQ. And this EQ, this dip here, about 100 Hertz, is to make room for the next sample, which is this one. And the first one is really boomy and has a lot of punch that you feel in your chest in a club. The second one is the clicky, and actually this is the kick I used in my track Invictus, which is also like 3 layers or something, but I really like the click, so I used this sample. As you can see, it's made quite short, because normally it's much longer, but I just need the click part. To get more click in your kick, I often EQ it. And this is the EQ on there. As you can see here, this 80 Hertz, it's about the same where the other dipped. So if you combine them, it works better together. And a good trick is this transient designer from Waves. As you can see here, you've got 4 bands, and the second of the third and the fourth band are boosted by 3 and 3.4 decibels. And what it does is every time the kick hits, it boosts the high frequencies really shortly. So let me compare it for you guys. If you disable it, and now enabled. Not sure if you can hear the difference here, but gets a lot more click. I use it a lot on my kicks. Just be sure to, when you open it, you're not messing with the low end range, because then you're boosting the low end as well, and you want to control that. So then onto the next layer is the bass line. Actually, it's just the root note completely filled out, and it's a Silent 1 saw wave, actually just an init preset from Silent. Then on top of that, like if I disable the effects, this is just a saw. So the first EQ, as you can see, I'm boosting every harmonic to create the EDM kind of kick. And then second EQ, it's even more. And I'm boosting a lot, like 8 decibels in the low end. And I know it sounds crazy, but I just want to tell you guys, don't be afraid to use EQs and just try stuff. Then there's a Saturn. And actually this one, as you can see, I made a bend in the low end and boosted it even more on the warm tube mode to create a little bit of distortion. And then this is funny, because as I told you, building a kick is really a process. So I was aiming for this to be the big room kick, so it has all the harmonics. But then in the end, I wasn't happy with it, and I found another sample to use the harmonics. So what I did to the sub was add one final EQ, and actually I cut everything I made away to make just the sine. And it's super stupid because I just could have used the sine wave, but it's a process, so you start on trying things, get the best result, and that's it. So all these together, we have this. And of course, by the way, there's I need to enable this LFO tool over here to make room for the punch. And then we have one final layer, and that's the sample I talked about, EDM Kick from Vengeance. And in the end, I decided to use this for the harmonic layer to make it EDM feel. And of course, the low end is completely cut out from it because you already have your own low end. And then there's an LFO tool as well to compensate for the punch from the other kicks. And that's basically the kick. It's different. It's a different process every time, but I think this is cool to try out yourself at home. Then I'm using this sub pack at home. I've showed it multiple times, but I'm not sure if you guys know this. This is a big vibration unit. You connect it to your sound card and put it in the back of your chair, and it vibrates at the bass notes. There's everything, I think, between like 20 to 150 hertz. It vibrates and you can feel it. And the cool thing is that it really connects to your music. So if you don't put it too loud, but just a little bit, you get the feel that you're in a club. And for me, it makes it much easier to really mix your kick well, because you're not in a club in the studio. I'm still working in a small room, so my speakers don't even produce that much sub. And with this tool, you can feel the sidechain as exactly like how you should put it. So I think it's worth to check it out. I use it on every single track. Okay, another small trick for your kick. Sometimes I feel that a kick is lacking punch. And to solve that, I sometimes use this tool. It's from Isotope, and it's Isotope RX6. It's an audio editor. So let me show you. If you grab a kick sample, I'll put it in here. This is just a Cashmere kick. Sounds like this, but for example, if you want to change the punch, you've got a really cool feature, which is called pitch contour. And if you open it, you get, this is the time you have over here, that you selected over here. So this is actually the kick. And let me remove these. You can place bands over here. And as you can see, it says how much semitones you pitch it up based on time. So for example, if you pitch it up like 4 or 5, and then down immediately, what happens is that the click stays the same because that's at 0. And then you pitch it up really quickly to create, for example, a higher pitched punch, and it goes down immediately to the root note of the kick. And then you can press compare. You hear the difference? And then if you process it, you can bounce it out, and you have edited your kick to get more or less punch. Next on, there's a few elements in this drop that I want to show you. Of course, you've got the leads, you've got the kick, but then there's a lot of background noises or background synths that really make the track sound full and complete. And often people like ask, how do you get it sound so full? Well, I think it's because of these background synths, so I want to show you. I first play it a little part with these, and then I'll turn them off. And hopefully you hear the difference. Now it's still cool, but it sounds really empty, I think. And actually the main thing that's doing that is this weird synth. You don't even hear it in the track, but when it's missing, it really lacks like the completeness. So what this is Silent 1, 2 saw waves, detuned, nothing really special, and then this is the bass sound, and I put a lot of EQs and distortion after each other to make it a bit more special. And because I used the detune with 2 saws and a retrigger off, it's really wide sound, so it fills up the, like, it makes your track sound really wide as well. I think the rest is not really what is this, just distortion stuff, but it's basically about the sounds. And I'm not sure if you hear it on the speakers because they have a really loud sub over here. But if you listen in your studio, you really hear that it's an empty track or it's full, but you don't really know what's the difference. So I would advise to check out small background sounds. Of course, noise as well, but also try to play with these synth stuffs. And now one more time. And next thing with mixing, which is really important, is stereo width. And if I check some demos that I get from you guys, from not you guys, but from a lot of guys, I often hear like problems with the stereo image. Either it's really mono or it's just completely like spread out way too much, and therefore it gets like a lot of high-end trebles and stuff. So back in my days, I also had like issues with getting the stereo right, and I put some acoustic treatments in my room, especially left, right, and above you, and then the stereo image just gets so much better. So I would advise to check that out. Also, don't mix the stereo on your headphones because it just doesn't really work. You don't get the full image. You need to do it on speakers to really listen to where the sound is placed. And then to mix it, always try to use different stereo techniques, but I will show it later on in a different project as well. Also for percussion, try to put percussion like one thing left, one thing right, so it spreads out. And if you put some sounds on all these sides of the stereo image, your track will sound way better, I think. Any questions so far on this project? No? Okay, then let me open the next one. So this is my remix for Alive by Sick Individuals. We just gave a masterclass as well. And first I want to show you the break and how to make your break sounds like cool and also use the right amount of layers and stuff. First I'll play the track. So the project is stripped down as well. So there were a lot of more sounds, but it just brought these parts. First, the break. So I want to talk about the... Oh. About the layers I use. Often sometimes I hear like tracks that have a lot of supersaw layers on top of each other, but the problem is like all these supersaw sounds kind of the same, have a lot of high end and noisy, and then it gets really thin and lacks energy, I think. So I want to show you how I usually do this kind of stuff. So let's start with the supersaws one by one. Check. This is the first synth. It's Avenger, and I'm not sure if you guys know this synth. It's not really popular that much, but it's my favorite synth right now. It's made by Vengeance, and you can see it like it has the sounds a bit like Nexus, but you can edit everything you want, and actually way more than you want. It's crazy. It's much more versatile than Silent or whatever. Only thing, it's pretty heavy on your CPU, so you need to have a good computer. But this is actually the only real supersaw I used. And as you can see, even the EQ is disabled, so it's just literally the sound out of the synth. And then the second layer over here is much more in your face. It's not this supersaw noisy stuff, it's a bit distorted sound. And basic EQ thing I almost always do is dip a bit in the 200 to 500 hertz area, because that's often a bit muddy. And if you cut it out, yeah, it sounds way better. And I think, yeah, I learned it back in the days, and now I'm using it almost on all sounds. Of course, listen how your track sounds, but still it's good to try it at least, because it's often an area with some problems. Also, I'm cutting out the low end a bit, because I'm adding a new layer later for that to control it better. So these two together, it's already quite full. It goes to a buzz with a little bit of, well, the EQ is not that special. The reverb, I use Arts Acoustic Reverb a lot for the long reverbs. It sounds really clean, and I use the same kind of preset on almost all the sounds. And what happens then is that they all glue together really well. Because if you use different reverbs, you get a different room, and then it sounds a bit weird. So if you add the same reverb to all these sounds, they glue together and it sounds as one. So then what they are playing is some chords, so actually just a root note and a fifth. And then I always put my melody on top of the supersaws as well, because the melody needs to be in front. And they both play the same stuff actually. Then we have bass line. This is the mid bass. As you can see, I cut out a bit of the low end as well. And this is really to fit in between like the sub bass and the supersaws. And then, of course, you need a real sub bass for the club feel, and it's just a sine wave from Silent. That's it. Plays the same notes. And then there's one more layer, which is the lead, and that's. Is it in here? Ah, yeah. Also Avenger. So this is the bass sound coming out of the synth. Actually, this EQ isn't even needed, but I always do it on every single sound. Put the EQ first, cut out the low end to see if there's like problems. And then I use this plugin, Novatech Character, and it's pretty cool. It's an exciter distortion kind of thing. Really easy to use and just brings more presence to your sound. And then of course the same reverb as I told you, so it glues together well. And the LFO tool is disabled for now. It's in the second break when the kicks comes in. So all together. And let me show you in the spectrum, because now you have like all these layers, and I think it's good to try it at your home. Like have a sub layer, have a mid bass layer, mid bass over here, then the chord starts. And the lead in between. And I think I actually, I cannot show you because the EQ is not opening, but in the superstar chords, I made a dip at the root note frequency of the lead. So the lead cuts through better in the superstar leads. But I cannot show it because I can't grab this thing. And then of course you add some percussion, like simple Kashmir claps are here. Some crowd claps, and usually I think I would use like maybe two superstars, so maybe one more. But for this track, because there's a vocal on top, you also need to have space for the vocal, so that's why it's fairly simple now. I think that's it. So let's go to the drop over here. Okay, well, you know the drop. So with this one, I want to give you an example as well with, like if I disable the lead sounds, and then I need to see this one as well. The track still sounds really wide and has a lot of ambience, and that's what I was talking about with the background stuff that really fills up your track. Like there's still a lot of background stuff happening, and for example, if I play it without all that stuff, it sounds pretty shitty. Okay. Well, you get the idea. So over here as well, there's all these noise layers that are pretty wide. For example, this crowd sample it's a really wide sound, so it's good for the stereo image. And all these noises are on top that really give the power to the track. So let's go to the leads. So actually it's a 3 layers. I'll play them one by one. So this is the main one. It's a Nexus lead. This is the EQ. Actually, this is not my normal thing I do. Usually I dip it around here, but for this track I felt like it needed a little boost. I use Novel the Character again. Fab Filter Setter, and most of you guys know it, I think. Stereo Imager. And as I told you, try to use different stereo techniques. So on this one I use the S1 Imager Stereo, which just boosts the side signals. But on the second one I'll show you a different one, and then together you have the maximum kind of stereo image. It glues better together. Decimor is a bit crusher, just a tiny bit. And then, as I told you, always put an EQ afterwards, because as you can see, if I play it, all these distortion plugins, they add rumble in the low end. As you can see here, this was there, and I cut it out because it creates trouble in your track. So that's the first lead. The second one has the same kind of vibe, but it's placed super, super wide. And that's because I used Fruity's stereo shaper. It just delays the left or right signal with a few milliseconds. And now I think the left channel is delayed by, let's check, 19 milliseconds. I'm not sure if you hear it on these speakers, but actually in the studio you can hear it's like placed over there, and the other lead is a bit more in the middle, and then together it fills it up. And it actually sounds like one lead sound. Then we have a third one, which is dead center, because we already have a bit of the white stuff. And it's a bit cleaner saw thing. It's basically a saw wave with the shaper function in Avenger. And as you see, I disabled the stereo plugin because I was trying to mess with it, but then I thought like, okay, we need one center lead. So we have two different stereo techniques and one just plain in the middle, and then together. So that's the leads. A cool trick, I'm not sure if any of you guys use FL Studio. Yeah? Okay, so I'm not sure, when I talk to this about people, hardly anyone knows it. As you can see, I'm using pitch bend for these 3 leads, but it's only one pitch bend automation. So how it works is you create the first one just by right-clicking, make an automation clip. And then for the next one, you right-click, go to link to controller, and internal controller, you select. If you click, you see all the automation clips in your project. Like it starts empty, and you select the right one. So right now it was lead 1 channel pitch because you just made that. Like this button is red the first time you use this feature, so disable it and then click accept. And now both of them follow the exact same pitch bend automation. And you can use it for all automation. You use it for filters as well. It's much easier and a cleaner project file because you can have multiple things linked together. Let me check. And of course, there is also a bus for the leads. Usually I don't really put that much on it, but over here I see I did. Yeah, so why am I dipping here? I think like the 1.5K hertz is always a bit harsh on your ears. And if you dip it a little bit, the sound gets a bit cleaner. So that's why I'm often like dipping a little bit at 1.5K and sometimes boosting at 5K to get a bit more presence. Of course, it's different for every single sound you have, but these are some guidelines that I use to EQ. I actually don't really use that anymore on the buses. And of course, sidechain. I sidechain with LFO tool, and I use just one LFO tool for all the leads together, so they have exactly the same sidechain. Okay, let's see. I want to show the rest. Let's see what's interesting. Well, I didn't use it in this project, but for percussion sometimes I use LFO tool as well. And I can quickly show you over here. I made a... Oh, the preset's not here. Well, okay. I set it up like this, disable the volume, and turn on the panning. And then you can set the rate over here or just use freeform. And I put this, for example, on hi-hats sometimes or on noise. And what happens is it pans really fast. So your sound goes from left, right, non-stop. And that way you can create a nice stereo image as well. Like if you layer two hi-hats on top of each other, play the same rhythm. With one you use this technique, and with one just in the center or a different technique. And like all small tricks to make it sound wider. And actually, you see this is the one I always do. There's no sound coming through now, but like this. And then I think that's basically it. Do you guys have any questions? Yeah? Okay, wait, let me throw this to you.
What's the name of the thing you showed us?
It's called Subpack. Subpac.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, no, it's a track from Kivu actually, but I don't really know how to make such cool vocal chops in the drop, like such vocal leads.
Vocal leads.
Yes, like it looks like so. Yeah.
I think it's from Nexus.
Yeah.
They have some vocal chops, and sometimes you can just use samples as well.
Yeah.
There are, like these days, there are a lot of packs that have vocal chops in it, and of course you need to find the right one and layer it. But in Trabanca, I think it's Nexus, but it's 4 layers on top of each other.
Thank you.
So check it out. Maybe they have some preset packs to check out. Any more questions? Yeah.
In the build-up, did you use Gator for the vocals to chop them up? Or was it Glitch too? Pre-vocal drop, I think.
In the Alive remix?
Yeah.
Okay, wait, let me check. Because I removed the build-up, so it's able to run. Yeah, it's Glitch too.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know it?
Yes, of course, man.
Okay, cool. Yeah, there's some more questions, if you can throw it.
How did you make the bass in Mantra? Because I think you also have like the EDM-ish kind of big room kick, the long tail, and also the bass hits inside of the tail.
Yeah.
How do you manage that?
I have to think. I think I put just a kick with a sub below it, and then the fast psy kind of notes on top of that without the real low end. Because I tried to do it with the real low end, and then it started to it was too fast or didn't sound really good. So I decided to use one long, just a sine wave, I think.
Okay, thank you.
Cool. Some more questions behind you. Yeah.
Hi. So I had a question about the sub bass and your kick, the balancing, because I have sometimes issues with the dynamics. Because if I mix my sub bass too loud, then my leads are not that present. And I want to know if you have like a key rule how to balance your main body kick with the sub bass.
I would say always compare your track with something that's a little bit similar. That's the way I used it, and that's also the way I used to balance the sub. Because if you have a track that's kind of similar, and you put it on top, then you can put your kick the same volume, the sub the same volume, and also the leads the same volume, and then it should work out.
Okay, thank you.
And also,
Yeah, because sometimes I get my sub really big and boomy, and when I compare tracks with by Kura or something, some artists, they have the sub is pretty quiet though on my speakers, and it's more like the mid-range basses which are pumpy, and Yeah, that's why I wanted to know how you balance your kick with a sub bass. It's just,
Yeah. Well, I cannot tell you how much decibels I put it because it's different every single time because I don't really pay attention to that. I just use my ears. But it's a good trick to add mid-bass stuff because your ear connects it to the root note, which is the sub bass. And you actually, a lot of beginner mistakes are to put the sub bass really loud because you want the fattest kick. But that just doesn't work because even in mastering, you can't master it as loud as you can if the sub is a bit lower. So try to look it up in the higher range, yeah. I think like 1 octave above the real sub, maybe.
Okay, thank you.
Cool.
All right, we have only room for one question left.
Just throw it to someone, yeah.
So in the underground, you use your own vocal.
Yeah.
Just wondered what kind of processing you used on that to get it to that kind of sound.
Actually, there's a YouTube video on that one. That's why I didn't explain it over here. You can watch Image Line's YouTube account,
okay. Yeah.
and they put a whole video with the whole explanation of the underground and also show exactly the processing on my vocal.
Oh, nice.
Yeah?
Sounds, yeah.
Cool.
Give a big applause for Maddix.
Desire brighter than starlights. Only you and I and the satellites till it's gone with the sunrise.